What is addiction? Addiction is when a person engages in the use of a substance or behavior that is negative towards their overall well-being, while repeating it over time. From addiction comes many unfavorable actions depending on how addicted someone is to a given substance or behavior. With a substance addiction, many times an individual will not realize they have a problem before it is too late, which could possibly end in death if he or she is addicted to any hard drug. Drug addictions are a huge reason why some people's lives get destroyed. They can tear not only you apart but your whole family apart as well. Compared to behavior addiction, the person is also unaware of how they are acting on a regular basis, and this could change their life for the worse if they take part in negative behaviors that are unwanted by other people, such as their family and friends that they're around 24/7, or even someone they just met as a first impression. They don't want to be around them. If they give that impression that they're a drug addict or something like that, might cause them to go away. This will leave them with no one else but themselves because they drove everyone out of their lives. One of the main reasons for addictions is because people do not have self-control. Self-control would cause them to take a second to think about what they are doing or about to do and make them realize that it is not the best idea for their overall well-being. The Society of Addiction is a great group of doctors, psychologists, and everyday people that promote advances in addiction research, professional training, and clinical practice on normal and abnormal addictions. As for the addiction research, the Society of Addiction Psychology provides new and amazing findings based on the extensive research that teams of individuals put together. These research methods and teams are always finding new ways of how to measure the severity of an addiction, as well as how to tell if someone has an addiction. They also are always making advances in professional training. This is anywhere from training how to deal with situations people are in to how and why someone may use their addiction as a coping mechanism for past traumas, such things like that. All members of the Society of Addiction Psychology understand that an addiction is a mindless behavior that is subconsciously repeated. In order to fix or adjust an addiction, one must feel as though they need this change in their life in order to resolve it long term. When it comes to the clinical practice of addiction psychology, there are many solutions and or treatments that psychologists can apply to a patient with an addiction. Psychologists realize that everyone is different and that for each person they see with an addiction, they need to take a similar but different approach than they did with the last person. The Society of Addiction Psychology is a great resource for people to find new information and learn more on the clinical practice of addiction. The reason for my interest in addiction psychology is a couple of things. The first is that I find it very interesting how someone can become reliant or addicted to an object, substance, or behavior. Everyone has addiction, in my opinion. It does not matter if it's good or bad. I believe that everyone has some sort of behavior that they take part in repeatedly or an object that they are always involved with, such as phones in today's society where people cannot go minutes without looking at their phone, without like picking up their phone or anything like that. The reason for my interest in addiction psychology is a couple of reasons. First being that I find it very interesting how the human mind works in relation to addiction. How on a chemical level in someone's brain that becomes addicted to something, when someone takes part in doing drugs, dopamine is released in their brain and throughout their body, making them have a sense of feeling good. Dopamine production can happen from many daily actions such as eating a food you are craving, and especially sex can release huge amounts of dopamine. The difference between producing dopamine from these and taking drugs is very different. When someone takes a drug, it floods their system with a very huge amount of dopamine, causing them to feel euphoric and overall refreshed. Based on a chemical reaction inside your brain, a drug addiction can become very easy to inhabit just because it releases all that dopamine, causing you to feel great inside and wanting more and more of that euphoric feeling of feeling amazing and everything like that. The second reason is because in my family there's a pretty substantial amount of addicts, varying from alcohol to online shopping. It is a very prevalent concept in my family, and I would like to know more about it and how to help people. For me, I have always been someone that wants to help people in some way, and if there's any chance I could help my family members with their addictions, it would make a huge difference in my life and their lives. The third reason is because I find it fascinating that addictions can take over someone's whole life. I know that is not a good thing, but I just find it interesting how someone can let something like a drug ruin their life and completely change it forever. I know what drives an addict is what they are addicted to, but I want to know how it works out that they become so reliant on something in their life that they need it all the time, craving more and more until they have nothing left. Thank you for listening, and remember the Society for Addiction Psychology is an amazing resource and group of people that are there to teach, learn, and help people understand addiction better and learn effective methods to help stop addictions.